Rain fell in thin, cold threads at night, cutting through the stillness of the street. I parked a little way from the house and watched the windows glow like a cruel joke. Music blaring, laughter spilling into the dark, the sound of glasses clinking together. From the gate, I spotted my father sitting alone, trembling under the drizzle, his frail arms wrapped around his knees. When he saw me walking up, soaked and breathless, his eyes searched mine, lost and hurt. "Son," he said quietly, his voice shaking, "why won't they let us in?" That single question hollowed me out. For so long, I thought I had built something solid, a good marriage, a beautiful home, a family worth protecting. My father was all I had left after my mother passed. I had promised her she'd never have to worry about him being alone. When my wife suggested he move in, I believed she was being kind. I was wrong. Her parents were around constantly, offering their advice on everything. How the house should be decorated, what meals my father should eat, how I ought to act. I took it as care. But it wasn't. It was control, dressed up as concern. Then the small changes began. My father started skipping dinner, spending evenings alone on the back porch, staring at the garden. When I asked if something was bothering him, he gave me a faint smile and said, "I think your wife's family doesn't like old people much." I tried to laugh it off, until the day I came home early. Laughter filled the living room. My wife, her parents, her cousins. I heard my father's door close quietly upstairs. Then her mother's voice floated down the hall. Finally, he got the message. "The man smells like death. Your husband's too blind to see it, but we do." A pause. Then my wife's whisper cut to me like a knife. "Don't worry. He'll be gone soon. I'll make sure of it." I stood there frozen, my hands curling into fists. I wanted to burst in, to shout, to destroy everything in that room. But I didn't. Something colder, quieter took over instead. From that night on, I played the fool. I smiled when I had to, nodded at their insults, kept my silence. But I began collecting every piece of their poison. Hidden microphones, cameras disguised as decoration. Every sneer and cruel comment saved to a private cloud. While they laughed at the man who had given me everything, I rewrote the foundation they stood on. The house, legally mine, was refinanced and secured under my sole ownership. I moved my assets, changed my insurance beneficiaries, built a trust in my father's name. Everything they thought they'd inherit was redirected. All I needed was the right moment. It came on that stormy night. My father called, his voice trembling. "They told me there's no space for me tonight," he said softly. Said the guests wouldn't be comfortable. He tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway through. That was enough. I left work without a word. When I arrived, the gate was locked. He sat there, drenched and shivering, while they danced and drank inside the house I had built. My wife, barefoot and smiling, spun across the floor we once called our future. That was the moment I let go. I led my father to the car and drove him to a hotel suite I had reserved days before. "Stay here tonight," I told him. "Tomorrow everything changes." He didn't ask how. Maybe he already knew. The next morning, I walked into my house. The stench of wine and arrogance hung in the air. My in-laws were passed out on the sofas, empty bottles scattered everywhere. My wife looked up, startled. "You're home early," she murmured. "Not home," I said quietly. "Just visiting." I set a thick folder on the table. Inside, photos, recordings, bank statements, legal papers. Her father chuckled, dismissive. "You think this will scare us?" I smiled. "No, but the eviction notice on the front door might." Their laughter died the moment my lawyer stepped through the door. The house was mine. The trust ensured that everything in it now belonged to my father. They had half an hour to leave. When the truth sank in, panic followed. Her parents packed in chaos, shouting, cursing. My wife cried, begged, promised a change. I said nothing. I simply watched. When the door finally shut behind them, silence filled the house, heavy but pure. I called my father. "Come home," I said. When he arrived, I handed him the keys. He looked at me, confused, tears forming in his tired eyes. "This is your home, Dad," I said softly. "Always was, always will be." He tried to speak, but emotion choked his words. The years of quiet humiliation melted from his face, replaced by peace. And in that quiet, for the first time in a long while, the house finally felt alive again.